Most people spend years eating foods they think are healthy, only to find out the label was lying to them the entire time. Not lying exactly, but designed, engineered, and legally worded to make you believe something that is not true. Today, you are going to learn how to read a nutrition label in 60 seconds flat, and by the end of this video, you will never be fooled again. Stay with me, because around the 4-minute mark, I'm going to show you the one number that food companies absolutely do not want you to look at first. Let's start with a fact that should make you uncomfortable. The front of any food package is not regulated the same way the nutrition label on the back is. That means words like natural, wholesome, light, and even made with real fruit can appear on the front of a package with virtually no legal standard behind them. The front of the package is marketing. The back of the package is data. And once you know how to read the data, the marketing becomes completely irrelevant. So here is the system. 6 things, in order, every single time. Step 1, serving size. This is where the entire game begins. Before you look at a single calorie, a single gram of fat, or a single milligram of sodium, you need to know what the label is actually describing, because every number on that label is tied to one serving, and one serving is not always what you think it is. A bag of chips might say 140 calories per serving. Sounds fine, but then you look at the serving size and it says 1 ounce about 7 chips, and the bag contains 3.5 servings. That 140 calorie snack is actually a 490 calorie decision if you eat the whole bag. And be honest with yourself. How often do you eat 7 chips and stop? Food companies are not doing this by accident. Smaller serving sizes make the calorie count look lower. They make the sugar content look lower. They make everything look more acceptable. Your first job, every time, is to look at the serving size, look at how many servings are in the container, and do the math before you read anything else. Step 2, calories. Once you know your serving size, now you can look at calories. Calories are a measure of energy. Your body needs energy. This is not a moral judgment, but understanding where those calories come from matters more than the number itself, which we will get to in a moment. The FDA updated its calorie guidance to reflect that most adults should consume somewhere between 1,600 and 2,400 calories per day, depending on age and activity level. Use that as your framework when you are evaluating a single food item. If one snack is consuming 30 or 40% of your daily calories, and it is not a meal, that is information worth having. Now here is where it gets interesting. Calories come from 3 macronutrients: fat, carbohydrates, and protein. And the ratio of those 3 tells you a story that the total calorie count never will. Step 3, fat. This is where decades of bad science created lasting damage. For years, we were told fat was the enemy. Low-fat everything flooded the market. And in most cases, food companies replaced the fat with sugar, which is a far more significant driver of metabolic dysfunction. Here is what you need to know. Total fat is not your primary concern. What matters is the type of fat. Saturated fat and trans fat are the 2 you are watching. The American Heart Association recommends keeping saturated fat below 13 grams per day on a 2,000 calorie diet. Trans fat should be as close to 0 as possible. And here is the critical detail most people miss. If the ingredient list contains the words partially hydrogenated oil, the product contains trans fat, even if the label says 0 grams. The FDA allows companies to round down to 0 if a serving contains less than 0.5 grams. Eat 2 or 3 servings, and you have consumed a meaningful amount of something that has no safe level of consumption. We are going to pause here for 1 second, because what I just told you about partially hydrogenated oil is not common knowledge. It is one of the most important things you can learn about food labels, and almost no one talks about it. If you are finding this useful, consider subscribing right now, because every video on this channel goes this deep. We do not do surface-level health content here. Step 4. Sodium. This is the one that gets people, especially people who do not add salt at the table and think they are doing the right thing. The 2020 to 2025 Dietary Guidelines for Americans recommends less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day for most adults. Now consider that a single serving of some canned soups contains over 800 milligrams. That is more than a third of your entire daily limit in one bowl. And if the can contains 2 servings and you eat the whole thing, you are at 1,600 milligrams from one meal alone. High sodium intake is directly linked to elevated blood pressure, which is itself one of the leading risk factors for heart disease and stroke. And the challenge is that most of the sodium in the American diet does not come from the salt shaker. It comes from processed and packaged foods, exactly the foods with nutrition labels. When you are scanning a label for sodium, a general benchmark is this. A food with 5% or less of the daily value for sodium is considered low sodium. 20% or more is considered high. That daily value percentage column, the one on the right side of the label, is actually one of your most useful tools, and most people ignore it entirely. Use it. Step 5. Now we get to the number I told you about at the beginning. The one food companies do not want to be your first stop. Total sugar versus added sugar. In 2016, the FDA updated the nutrition facts label to require a separate line for added sugars. This was a significant victory for public health and a significant problem for the food industry because it made something visible that had been hidden for decades. Here is the difference. Total sugars includes everything. Natural sugars from fruit or dairy, and added sugars that were put in during processing. Added sugars are the ones that drive metabolic dysfunction, increase triglycerides, contribute to insulin resistance, and provide zero nutritional benefit. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 25 grams of added sugar per day for women and 36 grams for men. 1 flavored yogurt, 1 granola bar, 1 bottle of a popular green juice marketed as a health product. Any one of those can put you at or past your limit before noon. When you are reading a label and you see that the added sugars line is the majority of the total sugar content, that food is engineered sweetness, not nutrition. And it is worth knowing that clearly before you decide if it belongs in your body. Step 6. Protein and fiber. These two are the anchors of satiety. Protein helps preserve muscle mass, supports immune function, and signals fullness to your brain. Fiber slows digestion, stabilizes blood sugar response, and feeds the gut microbiome. When you are evaluating a food, especially something marketed as a meal or a snack, ask yourself, does this have meaningful protein? Does it have meaningful fiber? A protein bar with 15 grams of protein and 1 gram of fiber, combined with 20 grams of added sugar, is mostly a candy bar with a marketing budget. A food with 6 grams of protein and 5 grams of fiber is going to keep you full and support stable energy for hours longer. If a food has no protein and no fiber, it is essentially asking your body to process energy quickly with no structural support. Your blood sugar spikes. Your insulin responds. You crash. You are hungry again. You eat again. This is the cycle that packaged food is often designed around, whether intentionally or not. Let me give you the complete 60-second system one more time, fast. Serving size first. Every number on this label is based on this. Know it before you read anything else. Total calories second, but only in the context of how many servings you are actually going to consume. Fat third. Ignore total fat. Focus on saturated fat and look for the words partially hydrogenated in the ingredients. Sodium fourth. Use the daily value percentage. Anything at 20% or above is high. Added sugars fifth. This is the most important line on the modern nutrition label. Read it with the understanding that the recommended daily limit for most adults is under 30 grams. Protein and fiber sixth. These determine whether this food is actually going to do something for your body or just move through it. 6 steps. Less than 60 seconds. And now you are more informed than the majority of people standing in the grocery store aisle right now. One more thing before you go. The ingredient list is not part of the nutrition label, but it is arguably more important. Ingredients are listed in order by weight, from most to least. If sugar, corn syrup, or any variation of sweetener appears in the first 3 ingredients, the product is primarily built around that ingredient. If the list is 40 items long and contains words you cannot pronounce, that is also information. You do not have to avoid every processed food, but you should know what you are choosing. The goal of this video was not to make eating feel complicated. It was to hand you a clear, fast, repeatable system so that you can make an informed decision in the time it takes to stand in a grocery aisle and glance at a label. That is a skill. It compounds. Every meal you make with better information is one more brick in the foundation of your long-term health. If you want to go deeper on this topic, watch the video on blood sugar and insulin that is linked right here. See you in the next one.